Namaste, and thank you for joining me. I'm so looking forward to breaking down the new moon in Libra and what that represents for us this month. I got to tell you, this is a deeply personal new moon for me. Just deeply personal. We haven't been able to get away from this first, 12th, 5th, and 6th house. And now with Virgo, of course, she went through the 6th house. We have Libra season upon us, but boy, has it been interesting to go through those transits personally. Just incredible inner transformation for me with Pluto opposite my Sun as well transit, and soon to have my Saturn return, my second one at I'm 58 now, so it'll be next year in March. And I hope that you will enjoy the psychological and the inner planet perspective that I put on things, the spin I kind of put on things. That is my heart and my passion, to see us operating in our relationships in an inner, harmonic, and balanced way. And I think that it's truly been a time of testing with the outer events, the larger moving planets. It has been a time of great testing for relationships, as we have seen so many shifts and changes occurring with the outer planets moving, jostling, and changing the very culture, the very structures that Capricorn and Saturn tried so hard to put up are all coming tumbling down. And it truly is an amazing time to be alive. And so I hope that you find encouragement and strength, direction, if you need it, spiritual connection, which is of most importance to me, whatever that looks like for you. I would never want to be anyone's voice. I think that what is best is when we learn to hear our own voices and then follow those and be true to them. I think that that's the path to go towards, and we're seeing that more collectively, people just truly doing that inner work, the inner transformative work that you're going to see come out in this Libra new moon. But the encouraging thing is we have all these planets that are going to start shaking things up and moving and going direct. So they've been sitting, but in retrograde, 7 outer planetary or asteroid positions in retrograde. And I'm going to break that down for you. So I look forward to you joining me in my studio as we get that chart in front of you, so you could see how this personally interjects with your own life, and get your own chart out, your cup of coffee or water or whatever you do. And whiskey, I don't know what you need, man. Do whatever you do, but a pen and your own chart. Get that up in front of you so you can see exactly where that 13 degrees in Libra is sitting in your chart. And this is where the house and where it's at, how it's going to impact you the most. All right, with that, let's get started. Okay, so there you see the chart in front of you, and we have that sun and moon conjunct 13 degrees in the 12th house is where this is showing up for those out of New York Eastern Standard Time at 7:05 a.m., October 6, 2021. So something else that I wanted to talk about was all those planets in retrograde. So what I want to do is just bring that up really quick. And this video does not concentrate on the outer planetary positions, although I briefly go over them. This is more, again, of the interpersonality working in the inner planets, in relations, on the day-to-day and working with, or not, the outer energies that are not so much in our control as the day-to-day inner choices. That's kind of where I concentrate on, because I really believe that you can know everything you need to know about what's going on out there in the stars, in the sky, and understand astrology at deep levels. But if you cannot apply it in practical, manifesting, consistent ways, then it's all theory. And I like to see application and change and transformation. I'm a Scorpio ascendant, so I'm always going to be interested in Plutonian themes, which is, how can we change? How can we transform? How can we go deeper to become the best that we can be and go to that 9th house? So 7 objects in the sky, and I'll point those out to you really quick. In the first house, you have Mercury, which just went into retrograde, coming out towards the end of October. Next, you have Pluto sitting in the 4th house in Capricorn in retrograde. That is due to come out the day of the new moon, is when it will start making its shift. I find that very fascinating when Pluto chooses to go direct. And it will be the day of the new moon. So it's going to be moving out of that retrograde. It just moves very slow. And as the new moon progresses, it'll come out. If you want to know the exact time, just look that up. I'm sure it's out there. I didn't look at the exact time. The next retrograde we have is Saturn in Aquarius, also sitting in the 4th house. Some serious themes there, not for today's discussion, but long lessons needing to be learned of an Aquarian theme in a disciplined, structured way, with Saturn there and Pluto's completely transforming what that looks like. And that is really what's happening in our outer world. I mean, Pluto is that long transiting planet. Saturn is very long as well, spends 7 years in a sign. So, next planet, 5th house, Jupiter, also in Aquarius at 22 degrees, in retrograde, sitting in the 5th house of Leo, the lion. So we have air and fire sitting in the 5th house. Then we move on into the 6th house, Neptune in Pisces at 21 degrees, well into that sign, in retrograde as well. Chiron, retrograde in the 6th house, in the sign of Aries. And we'll be going more deeper into that as I use, going forward, I'm going to be using Chiron. I feel like I'm ready to begin to bring out Chiron into the readings. I feel like I've, got enough study and mastery of it, always growing in it, because it's just incredible people out there who are just doing the harder work and the research for us, and they're truly gems. And I'm going to talk about that in a book that I reference as we get through this. Okay, the next planet, Uranus, right? My goodness, all that Aquarian, Saturn, Jupiter stuff going on is got Uranus over there in Taurus, stalling out in fixed energy in the 8th house. This is 8th house matters. Talk about that. And then the last is the North Node in Gemini. Just recently moved in there, only at 4 degrees, sitting in the 8th house, but in retrograde. So, wow. I mean, that is a lot stalled out and has their heels in the ground and saying, no, we must look around at the bigger picture here, because these planets are speaking very, very clearly. They do start to loosen and move out through the month of October, and then eventually some of them get underway. But if you want to know more about that, just research where they're at. But right now, that's what we're looking at. So with that, what I want to do now is just take a look at the personal planets and get the larger planets out for a moment, so that we can just see the inner working planets right in front of us. Okay, so there you see in front of you. Again, we have this moon conjunct the sun. Then we have Mars at 13 degrees as well, conjunct the sun and the moon. We definitely need to talk about that. And then we have Mercury, which isn't quite of a tight conjunction. It's 7 degrees separation. That's considerable to me. And it's kind of standing away from all that other energy and looking at it in the same house. And I think that that's important to notice because that is in retrograde. So we'll talk about that. Then we have Venus, finally, before we get to Chiron, the last inner luminary planet, and that has been in Scorpio, and there's been a lesson there, and that is at 28 degrees critical degree. That was incidentally what I think our last full moon or new moon was. One of them was in 28 degrees. So that degree's been coming out it was the Pisces full moon. Yeah, it's just this ending energy. Again, in the 12th house is where the new moon is. So isn't that interesting? We've just got these themes, like I said, in the beginning of 12th to 6th and 1st to 7th, and also 11th to 5th, I would have to say. But we kind of moved out of that. We're more now in the 12, 7, 1, 6 situation. You could see it right there in front of you. Now, all the inner planets, of course, are never too far apart from each other. So they're all over there, but they are very close together, kind of huddled over as if it will. Sticking together is what I see. Just they really want some resolution here. This is in the 12th house. Mars is in the first going, come on, let's just be done with this. And that new moon is coming towards that first house energy. So opposite of the chart is Chiron. And if you don't know what Chiron is the wounded healer. And this is where we see our core wounds, where we were in our natal chart wounded very, very deeply, and how we need to take Pluto and Scorpio's energy and Virgo's day-to-day energy and, overcome, rise, transform, be the phoenix rising from the ashes. Wherever Chiron is, if you are balanced in that energy, will be a place that probably you can speak to others. You can be a testimony and a testament to what it's like to go through. Here we see recovering alcoholics. Here we see people who have gone through horrible childhoods, but they rise above it. We see people often, when their Chiron is mortally wounded, in very dysfunctional homes. So often you'll see it down in the intimate houses in the lower part of the chart. And so wherever Chiron shows up, it's very, very important to pause and take a look and say, hey, what's my core wound here? And is there one? And how do I address it? Notice, again, it is completely opposite, sitting all alone. So this inner wounding is showing up over there in just going through that 6th house, okay, in Aries. It's been in Aries for quite a while. And it's in retrograde. So again, we've had these themes go back over the new moons and the full moons in the last 3 or 4, and it's all about relationships. It's all about how it's affecting your daily life. And with Chiron in the 6th house, we're looking at mortal wounds to the physical body, debilitating diseases, and how this energy that hasn't been balanced and centered within us in our relationships, within our own personhood, and with the outer energies is having an impact on our very health. So this is a message this month for those that are really challenged in their bodies and they're wanting to be whole and they don't know how to get there. And perhaps, who am I to say, it might be that is although I believe people can be healed 100% of the time, we all know it doesn't happen with our greatest intentions. We pray, we believe, we do our therapies and our ceremonies, and we meditate, and it is a deep spiritual matter to have a terminal illness. It does not just affect the body. And I find it incredibly timely that my course for my PhD degree that I'm working on is on this exact topic of prolonged illness in the body, chronic, debilitating disease, some recoverable, some not, and how to manage it naturopathically, mindfully, and in a as much as possible medicated way to try to get the body to return to its natural balance. But when there is disease, wow, Chiron is saying, no, I'm in retrograde over here and I'm in Aries. So we have to look at how Aries wounding in Chiron looks. And we will do that. So let's go ahead and look at this 13 degrees and talk about that for a moment. So 13 degrees is a degree of moving forward and really, halfway through that 30 degrees and well on its feet and truly having something to say here. This isn't a quiet moon. Why? Because we are in the sign of Libra, and Libra is the 7th house. Somebody put this chart in front of you so you can see the houses and how it appears. And when we finally get to the 7th house with Libra in Venus here, her planet is Venus, we see a need and a desire for harmonization, communication, relating to the others besides ourselves. 1 through 6, that chart, again, lower inner energies, the beginning of the person and the building of the person and where they set all their ideals up of how they feel about things, see things, speak about things, their comfort levels. All of that is in the lower houses. When we get to the 7th, we've now are coming out and we're exposing ourselves to other people. We're interacting. This is where your closest partnerships, businesses, marriages, and your enemies also exist within this house. Because her planet is Venus, we must look at this air cardinal energy that's moving out. And where does it appear? In the 2nd house in Scorpio. Very, very significant, as we've had a lesson there in Scorpio. Finishing up, I said, at that 28 degrees. So extremely, extremely important here. What else do I want to say about that 13 degrees? Well, I do want to talk about Mars conjuncting that because it's extremely important to understand Mars's impact on this moon. We have got some energy here, and it's a signature of, hey, I am really, really, really ready to move out. I am ready to go forward, and I am ready to put some very cardinal things that require courage on the planet. This is the ego and aggression. This is our sexual drive. Sexual drive in the 1st and 12th house conjunction here is extremely important to look at. This is with Chiron opposite. This could be sexual violence. This could be overcoming this sexual violence that was done against your body. Very much so. You have yang expression, masculine individuality. This is Aries planet, and this is Scorpio's planet. You're going to have independence in relationships with Mars. Mars isn't really liking to work with a lot of people as much as he wants to give the energy behind working with people. This is stamina and courage, but it can be conflict and force. And it can be anything that rules the muscles in the male genitalia. So this is, the blood in our vein, red corpuscle energy going forward. This is Aries. And its detriment in Libra. We must understand that it's in its opposite sign. So imagine if you will, when I talk about detriment, you got to look at it this way. You have used your right hand your whole life, and someone says the only way that you can live now is with your left hand. So it's taking your energy and putting it in a completely opposite expression, the left hand, and expecting it to just work. And of course, we know it doesn't. It takes a lot of Libra cooperation and patience to understand how to use that energy. So Mars here can act as a trigger, okay? Cause energy to move through you and move out in a Librarian way, which would be air cardinal energy. So speaking about collaborating, speaking about where our disagreements are, being active in our speech with Mercury in retrograde. This is an ongoing conversation. Mercury is the rational mind and reason. Mercury is our communication, our intelligence. It's memory and creating our associations and symbolism and skills. I'm going to talk about that third wave in a moment that I'm going to bring up in Libra. Very important to talk about. But this is this active, intelligent energy, and it's retrograde, which means it's going to stall out on this until it gets resolved. Like there's a stubbornness with Mars there just pressing, wanting to move out, and Mercury shaking his head and stalling. It's like, no, we need to revisit this. So perhaps this involves people interpersonally or a conversation within yourself that it's ongoing and it needs to be addressed. And how do we know it needs to be addressed? Well, we have to look at the other energies, but a big one is that opposite Chiron, because it's just sitting over there all by itself till we add those larger energies and longer transits in the energies out there. So Libra and Capricorn and let me put it this way. Libra, Cancer, and Capricorn are the third active intelligence energy wave. They're known as the third wave, which permeates into every form of life. The third active ray is the ray of active intelligence of the divinity, and it represents the inherent intelligence within all matter. So you think of the sun symbol in astrology with the circle and then the dot in the middle. That's representing that we do not begin here, we do not end here. It's a circle of life, and the dot in the middle is the spark that we bring to it. Much like the cell, the nucleus is in the center, and that's where the spark is. So it's that spark. It's that where all the intelligence is in the cell. That's what this third way of Libra, Cancer, and Capricorn are. So all of humanity here is strongly governed by the third ray. So Earth details are strongly governed by the third ray. And it's a ray of activity. It's cardinal energy. Libra, Cancer, and Capricorn sit on the angles, and they are all cardinal energy. And people who are connected to the third wave, unless it's debilitated, they're very much on the go types of people. And at the soul level, this is the birthing of ideas to benefit humanity. So they are interested. This Libra moon, third wave intelligence, is in an air communicative way with Mercury stalling out and Mars giving the energy and the courage. This is the birthing of ideas to benefit humanity. It's the structuring of time and activities to allow for group energies to flourish. This is day-to-day sixth house stuff. The structuring of our time and our activities and the way that we spend our time. It's asking you to be intelligent with Chiron there about how you spend that time. And it's a very objective top-down intelligence. It's able to look at the whole picture. It's got the penny pulled way away from its eye, and it's in balance with scales. And it's ready to be used in service to humanity. These signs are very interested in serving humanity in all ways. And at the personal level, this is a need for adaptability and clear intelligence and articulate speech, concerned about air energy here, and the ease of how to communicate ideas. It's the master thinker and the business skills and the ability to plan in advance in logical ways. So this is like, look, let's get a move on in these relationships and move forward now with these inner issues as well. Come on, we've got things to do. We want to move out. Libra wants to move us out. It's the 7th house of relating. And the 6th house isn't the 7th, it's below. And it can be a place of isolation across from that 12th where the moon and the sun is sitting in the house of isolation. It's like, come on, y'all. You've all been sitting in the house too much. Get out. Get out. Get out in nature and be among the trees and be among nature. Get out of the cities. Get to the waters. This is what I hear. Get to the mountains. Get to the trails. Get to the earth. Return to the earth. Spend time sitting on the earth. Let your children be around the earth, away from electronics. This is huge here. This is coming out. I feel something I'm supposed to share is, please manage your day-to-day use of your electronics. We are now seeing, and, I hope to be a part of helping people realize this and get it to the forefront of what these internet waves are doing to us, this 5G, and spending this time scrolling and looking at short bits of information, memes and shorts and TikToks and really fast moving things all the time. We're literally changing the brain and the way that we interact with one another. And I'm telling you, in 20 years, if we're not careful using this wonderful tool of the internet and managing it, it's going to manage us. And we're going to have some severe relationship behavioral deficits in the ability to relate with one another and connect to the earth. So let us be careful with that. This is wanting to be active. So what can happen here with this third ray of intelligence is it can be overly active. So this is where the shadow comes in. There's a nervousness to this energy where it can't sit still. Those types of people that have a really hard time just sitting and having a conversation with you, and you're like, hey, let's, go down to the woods and have a fire, and they got to bring their phones. Then when they realize the internet doesn't work, they can't stay, they have to go. These are the people that have strong intellectual abilities, and they can be very prideful about it. Just can be snooty, snotty, and prideful. And with the restlessness there, this can bring a depression to them. And a depression if goals aren't met. They're very goal-achieved people. They're cardinal, planning, active, energy. And so this third wave, if it doesn't have a place to put its energy, air and Mercury stalling, saying, talk about this, if it doesn't have a place, it can really implode in upon itself. So those are just some shadowy challenges there, the inner work that you might need to do. So what needs to be cultivated with this third ray of intelligence of Libra here is it's calling for a balance, especially in the emotions. So this is air energy. It's not all emotional like water. And it's cardinal. So it's going to be the example. So it's leading the way in how air should be. Or is it? We're going to take a look at her Venus and talk about that next. This is where truth at all costs must always be spoken, and no deceit here. And there has the goals and the purposes and the focus all needs to be very clear. So that's that third ray, and I just found that fascinating because I'm just learning those rays, and that was so much fun to research and look at that. And I will cite where I got some of that information from. If y'all want to go take a look at it, you can download a book. It is free, PDF, so exciting. So I was going to talk about that Venus for a moment. Now, Venus is sitting there inside of the second house, and it's at 28 degrees. All right, so Venus, Libra's planet, and Taurus's, but in Taurus's it's more earth energy, and in Libra it's more air. So Venus energy that's our relatedness with others and our love and our social urges. We have Venus in Libra, values. This is beauty and attraction. Where our personal magnetism is. See, we're attracting people here in the 7th house. It's the interrelated house. This is the nurturing mother love, Venus, where she is bonding energy and nurturing and harmony and merging. This is our sensuality. And it rules our kidneys, our urinary tract, the venous blood, throat, and the larynx. So this is where we have air energy in Venus. So it's saying, hey, I need your communication to be one that is really, really beautiful. But that is not what we are experiencing here at times with this Scorpio Venus. Bear with me. I'm looking for my notes on this. So with Venus and Scorpio at 28 degrees, we're definitely, like I said, finishing up and we're getting ready to move into Sagittarius, but we're not there yet. But when we have degrees is this late, that can really be a challenge because they're very full and they're ripe and they're ready to release and transform into the next energy. So Venus here in Scorpio is going to really have magnetic qualities and it's going to have strong powers of attraction. This is in water. Scorpio is fixed. So this is emotional, fixed energy, right? That has an all or nothing type of attitude when it comes to love. You can see how in the 2nd house, this can cause some serious challenges. You know, the 2nd house is ruled by Taurus and Venus. So Venus is home, but she's in Scorpio. And the 2nd house is concerned about security and self-esteem and values and valuables. It's what's your your material security, the things you can hold, possessions, resources. The 8th house, which is Scorpio, which is what Scorpio represents in Pluto, this is sex, death, and rebirth, and renewal, and transformation, deeply felt energies, and peak experiences are low. Thus, you can have these exaggerated expressions of love because the person is extremely in need of security here in the 2nd house. Pluto is about, Scorpio's planet is about transforming them. We'll look at where Pluto is there in a minute, and this is ironic. You just can't make this up. And this is the security in Pluto being completely challenged. And this is depth and interaction with others. And this is where we see our growth. And this is where we see change. So Venus here is really going to enjoy the things that money can buy and can really overdo it here and be a little extravagant in those expressions. So that's just something to really consider there with Venus. Extremely important to look at, and we'll look at the aspect in a moment. So, all right, let me see. What else did I want to look at here? So I just want to mention again real quick before we move into some of the other outer planets is we really do have to talk about that Mars at 13 degrees because that is the icing on the cake for me. It's extremely significant. It really has an expression this month. It's in the 1st house. We need to be careful with that. Mars is home. Wonderful, right? But Mars's planet is Aries. Mars is in Libra in detriment, and Chiron is in Aries, opposite. Do you see the conflict we have here? So I would have to say Libra, Aries relationships, you might be under some conflict this month if that's you. You definitely should talk and get that figured out. This is long-term energy. This is the forward thinker. This is Aries wanting to do his own thing. And, you guys have to come to a common ground. Mars is right there in Libra, just really wanting you to press the matter just a bit. This is strong willpower and the drive to achieve here, whatever is important to you in your life in the first house. It's conjunct the sun. The sun is the ego. It's the very essence of who you are. It's your personhood. This can be those combined planets with the moon of the emotions and the nurturing and where we get our security. This can really be some words in Scorpio with that can be some headstrong and inconsiderate conversations. Please heed this new moon. It's asking you to be done with those things. It's not going to get us where we need to be. The midheaven, ironically, is in Cancer. The mother, the home, the nurturer, saying, look, I need you to return to more nurturing ways. I need you to return to more stable ways in the homeland, in the homes themselves, in the heart of the home within you. And with Gemini and the North Node in Gemini, holding you there to this, air quality of speaking about it. I mean, this message does not want to go away. We're going to see a lot of shakeups, I believe, in secret matters. They're continuing to burst upon us with these secretive themes of, scandals and mistreatment of women in a sexual manner, over and over. And I tell you, this is a theme. And it's not done yet. I can promise you that. So Mars is also conjunct the moon, not just conjunct the ego there. And this is, again, going to allow you to be bold and forthright and really upfront when you deal with others. And with it being in the moon, you're going to have a capacity to lead the charge. And you're going to be motivated to take charge and to say, okay, all right, it's going to bring the fighter out in you, and you're going to be like, all right, I'm going to just be frank about this. I have a strong resistance right now. I'm going to take the risk. Mars is courageous. I'm going to speak up. I'm going to do what Mercury's showing me to do. I'm going to talk about where things have been, and I'm not going to quarrel. I'm not going to quarrel. And it's very likely these can take place with, the moon representing that fourth house Cancer home and Mars squeezing and putting the pressure on the sun. And with Mercury stalled out across from the wounded healer. Yikes. This is some very serious energy. Tread lightly. Tread very lightly. All right. So now what I want to do, I'm going to go to that Chiron last, but I want to pull in these other planets really quick so you can just get a peek. So you can just get a peek of where these outer planets are. Okay, so you have Jupiter in Pisces at 22 degrees in retrograde. That's been there for quite some time, and it's got 8 more degrees to go. Finishing up its transit, it takes a year, so it's just about through that Piscean energy, and then we're going to move into Aries. But with Jupiter there in the 5th house, this is Jupiter trying to have in Aquarius just a really impartial nature. Like, again, just look, this is the house of children too. So in relationships, the deeper love, passionate relationships, it's Leo's house. It's got air in there wanting to talk about this. So this could be children-parent relationships, very, very strong. And it's asking you to be tolerant, parents and children, back and forth. It's asking you, look, can you accept the viewpoints of others here? And can you, even though you're that, Aquarius, you're that revolter, and, you can be provocative, and you can, be all about those humanitarian ways, and sometimes of a jolting way. Hey, can you consider the change here in regards to the bigger social and humanitarian issues, and tread a little lightly. Jupiter brings blessing and enlargement and brings things into view because it's so large. But it also is a blessing planet wherever Jupiter is, and it wants to bring just an expression of joy. And Jupiter jovial, this is where we get this. And with it in the 5th house again, this is wanting to get along with children and wanting the children to be happy. So Jupiter's trining Mercury, so that's a very positive placement. This is optimism being expressed in a confident way, okay? So you've got some help there with Jupiter giving you a little bit of humor and a generous wit about it. It doesn't have to be all serious. With sextiling his energies that want to work together, but you've got to compel them. They may impel, they don't compel. That's Miss Hickey said that. Jupiter is squaring Venus. So that's not always the easy. Squares are challenges. That's not always easy. And here it can put a laziness on Jupiter and Venus and an overindulgent. With it being in the 2nd house in Scorpio, it can be fixated on that and not really wanting to get off the couch and, just I don't really want to deal with this kind of energy. Saturn is in Aquarius. It's been in Aquarius. It's at 6 degrees and will be there for quite some time. And here, you've got this in the 4th house is responsible attitude. And the social, again, this larger theme, social sense of justice and fairness in other people. If there's anything that these planetary placements are asking us to do, it's asking us to look at other people and not just think about ourselves, to look at the bigger picture. Because with Saturn there, we're really getting in the 4th house to look right now with this transit. It's asking you to look there. And family life is going to be extremely important and highlighted. Domestic harmony and security can be tough because you've got it in Aquarius, and it's wanting to step out and make changes and wanting to put out a humanitarian effort, and it's keeping us there. It's saying, I'm not going to let this go till we see this happen and we see these changes take place. Now, it's trining the sun in a very positive, easy aspect, and this is going to cause you to take life really seriously and realistically. It's going to put some meat behind the muscle. It's going to give you clear vision of the ego and an awareness that nothing is achieved without effort and industry. So it's going to show you, son, you're going to have to literally S-O-N and S-U-N, sons and daughters, you're going to have to put a little Marsanian energy, which you've got helping you in Libra behind your conversation and getting this resolved. It's trining the moon, Saturn as well. So the trine to the sun, trine to the moon, again, that's very positive. It's going to give you that strong sense of duty and responsibility, especially towards your family. So with it trining back to the 4th house and Saturn's already sitting in there, you can see how this is a really home theme. Get things in order. In the 6th house is where that wound is, in the daily life, in the health. It's affecting you all. That's what this is saying. Saturn trine Mars. So Saturn has also got this positive energy working with it in Mars with the energy to make you a hard worker. And it gives you a power to realize your objectives here, which is peace in the home. There's a perseverance and a determination, which this keeps coming out in the reading, but it's got Saturn in the home, allowing you to speak about these day-to-day matters, to have some self-discipline in your home, to have some stamina in your home. Mars is wanting to come into the home and say, I need you to do practical things. You've got 6th house home matters, oh my, day-to-day, which is, the home. You spend time in the home. This is serious here. This is really asking us to take a closer look at what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. You've got Pluto there in the 4th house in Capricorn. That's been in Capricorn forever and due to come out, I believe, in 2025, if I'm correct. 2025, I believe that is correct. Due to come out then. I could be wrong. But it is really teaching us these long lessons. It's a generational movement of I'm going to destroy and I'm going to replace structures that have outlived their time and usefulness. And it's sitting in the fourth house. So it's like, look, the way that you used to do things structurally in the home, I'm bringing Aquarian with the discipline of Saturn and the courage of Mars to really make those changes in the physical home. Some of you need to have some conversations with people in the home. Like, it's time. It's time, because with Pluto there in the fourth, this is radical changes being executed with ruthless pragmatism. Pragmaticism. I cannot tell you how ruthless this can be. Careful with the Mars in the first house of the person. It's how you're seen. It's how you look. So, when you turn to this Mars energy, that root that's just trying to get you going, pause. Consider Libra. Consider her Venetian way. Consider seventh house. Consider interrelatedness. It is also Pluto square, a hard aspect to Mercury. Very challenging there. This is going to be a person who is extremely dynamic and persuasive in their communication. So it's somebody that's thought about this and somebody that's basically giving you the dissertation on it. Like, this is for real. With Mercury stalled out there in the personal planets, this is somebody who's thought about this. This is somebody very perceptive and observant with its squared Mercury. This is psychological insights. So this is, again, these inner planets. This is a psychological situation here. This could have to do with needing to change your mind, the way that you see family in home. And relating with others here can be super, super challenging if you come across too overbearing and too intellectually arrogant. Now, it's funny, that is a shadow aspect of the third wave of intelligence, being intellectually arrogant. And this position is also saying that. So we have to be careful that we are in moving air that wants to come out, and we must manage it. Bottom line, some truths are coming out in this new moon, and they are not going to stall out on us. They are going to push, and we're going to see more truths coming out collectively. And of course, okay, so I just want to talk a few moments before I close here about Chiron and just the incredible significance of how this connects to the inner child, the inner wounding, and the areas that psychologically, if they're damaged when we're growing through these wounds, can have long lasting effects on the mind. And if we do not understand that we have these inner triggers, these inner ways of being, due to one thing can be an inflated amygdala, where the amygdala is your, fight or flight sense, and it causes hormones to go rushing through your bodies. There's a whole bunch of things that happen when the amygdala gets impacted. It's the best way to look at it, by an outside event. And if we don't look at these areas within us, and I'm speaking directly to those that have had psychological trauma due to childhood trauma, childhood abuse, and they're manifesting these responses, these triggers, they're manifesting in your relationships. And really, these moons that we've been having have really dealt very closely with our relationships. And this is just the culmination here. And the energy that we have with the beautiful Venus, even if it's in Scorpio, we know now the lessons. We've learned them. We're at the end. We're moving into another energy. Libra's able to tame and manage those energies and she's able to rise up and show herself regal and put her head up and show herself worthy, because she truly is the scale. She is justice. She is truth herself. And if there's anything Libra is, I wouldn't say overly proud, but she has confidence, right? So this is asking us in our Venetian relating with others, in our interpersonal relationships with Chiron, the wound, the place in our life that we get triggered by. It's asking us to look at, how is that impacting our relationships? How is that impacting our day-to-day? How is that impacting our mental, our health, our emotional health? Because remember, and our spiritual health. Because remember, we're never just our bodies. I love that we have the medical advances that we have, but I think that we need to be careful and not completely rely on those alone, but understand the natural forces within us are the true healers of disease. Hippocrates, the father of medicine, said that, and that we can do things for ourselves with the help of medicine, yes, with the help of a medical team, yes, but with the help of Mother Nature as well. And watching how we eat and listening to our bodies and getting back in touch with our bodies, because if there's anything that Chiron, the wounded healer, is it's chronic wounding. So, that gets very sensitive. Those topics for me are very sensitive when somebody is in chronic pain or someone is in debilitating pain for long periods of time. That's, challenging for the healer who wants to just see you well, but it's not happening with all the prayer and all the intercessions. It's just not happening. And again, this is the prolonged pain of Chiron. It's trying to teach us how to completely heal in whatever area it's touching. So here we see it sitting in the 6th house in the sign of Aries. It's opposite that moon, opposite that sun. Now, it's 10 degrees, and the moon and Mars and the sun are at 13, so it's not exact. It's moved past. Something has occurred, by the way. Some of you could have gotten recent news of the body that was not positive, and it's related to the way that you interrelate with others in Aries ways. So Chiron entered Aries March 17th, 2018. And it's going to spend about 8 years here. And I'm going to have you go on YouTube or wherever you go, online or with your guides, and learn about Chiron on your own. But I did do the overview of it. So it's that core wounding. And where we have it in Aries, which is a cardinal fire sign, and it rules the 1st house, and its planet is Mars. So this is deeply personal to the body. Mars, Aries planet, is pointing back in a direct opposition there. You can see it almost to Mars and to Mercury, communication. So not just to Mars, but to Mercury as well. So there is Chiron in Aries wanting this forward momentum of the wounds to be healed already. Man, can I just get well already? Can we be done with this? This is the message. And the wounding is in our values and our self-worth, because Aries runs the 1st house of self, and it is how we view the world, how we see the world, how the world sees us. It's our lens. And Mars is there as planet. Oh my. This is some active energy. And wounding in Aries looks like they don't have a right to exist. There's something fundamentally wrong with them. But they can be overly self-sufficient. These are the things that the wounds tell them. You need to be self-sufficient, and something's wrong with you, and you shouldn't be here. And when Chiron is healed, here it feels loving and lovable and worthy, and understands it has a right to exist. That, hey, I do have a place here. I do belong. And historically, when Chiron has occupied Aries, we saw changes in laws, particularly connected to human rights. Again, this Librarian theme, Libra theme of other people, otherness, personal freedoms, and social change. Chiron wants to take action here and break free in Aries. Chiron is done, and it's in retrograde, almost to say, look, one last time, we're really going to look at this. We need to fix this. And if it isn't fixed, then I'm going to have to go ahead and move out and bring it into more practical day-to-day energy. We see changes in laws, not only in the outer, but really in our inner lives, how we do things within. And it's in the 6th house. So our inner rules, our inner sanctum, our inner beliefs, our inner systems of how we balance and check things. Because remember, it's a Libra moon. This can be some really deep selfishness here and victimization of the wounds. But again, it's active energy. And with it being in the 6th house, it really wants to heal you in ways that's going to impact your daily routines, your physical health, your fitness. This is Virgo's house. This is diet and exercise. And any disease in your body. Work-life balance, opposite the new moon in Libra. Tensions here. A need to come close to the center and understand. It's time to look at how our relationships are directly impacting our health. It's time to look at how our relationships are directly impacting our health. I just want to offer you some tips for this here. A really strong crystal to have about you is bloodstone. It's going to center and balance you. I also suggest the heart chakra rose quartz. Just buy yourself, splurge, buy a nice one, put it under the new moon or the full moons, and, just believe that as you charge this crystal, it is going to bring harmony in the heart and harmony to, therefore, all of the health. And not just the physical heart. I'm talking about the spiritual heart, the emotional heart here. And with it being in the 6th house, it's really actively asking you, go out and pursue this. You've got this. Grounding in nature, extremely imperative. We didn't talk much about Neptune, but it's sitting there in the 6th house. And Neptune, as beautiful and wonderful as it is in Pisces, can bring a fog and a delusion because it's opposite the moon and the sun. It can bring this fog and delusion. And we had this theme before. Go back and look at the moons. It's the same thing. These opposites. And not really having a clear viewpoint. So hopefully this has, to shed some light on those interpersonal planets on a psychological perspective. And mindfulness, spending time alone and calming that mind before you engage. Watching what you eat before you go to bed. These daily routines, watching what you think as you go to sleep. This is all inclusive here. This is mind, body, soul, spirit. All right, dear people, I wish you the very best. I send you out in light and love. Until the next moon, may you be well. Namaste.